Hi friends, it's Deanna Williston with our Blooming Catholic Life, and you'll see I'm back inside. I am done with my 30-day at-home Ignatian retreat and realized I don't have a book review for you, and it looks like the shelves have been ravaged. Fall semester classes are almost over, so the books case will need to be redone, but don't worry because I have a brand new to me book for you. Our local ordinary parish was recommending this book for Advent. It is from the Augustine Institute and written by St. John Henry Newman, Waiting for Christ, Meditations for Advent and Christmas. Let's see what it says on the back. The first review is from the editor-in-chief of the Magnificat USA, Father Sebastian White, OP. Daily meditation and prayer, much as one spends time with a friend, is an essential practice for any person who desires to have Jesus as an intimate companion. This wonderful selection of Newman's meditations enables us to draw close to Christ as we await his nativity each year, that he may recognize us when he comes again in glory. Woo. We also have the Bishop of Lincoln, and I think that's Nebraska, the Most Reverend James D. Conley, STL. Newman was a prolific and accomplished writer in many and varied genres, but I've always believed that his voice can best be heard through his sermons. Christopher Blum has captured the sweet voice by giving us a rich selection of Newman's very best sermons for Advent and Christmas to accompany us through these graced seasons. Aha! Let's look at the description now that we've had the excitement build a little bit. It says, "May each Christmas, as it comes, find us more and more like him, who at this time became a little child for our sake, more simple-minded, more humble, more holy, more affectionate, more resigned, more happy, more full of God." Yes, let's do that. Let's see. The author of this prayer, oh, that's a prayer. Lovely. St. John Henry Newman, who lived in 1801 to 1890, was celebrated during his lifetime for his preaching and revered as a spiritual master long before his canonization by Pope Francis in 2019. In this volume of selections from some of his most famous sermons, you will find deep understanding of the human heart for which he is known, and of the memorable, moving language and imagery that have made him one of the most admired writers in the English language. Intended primarily as a devotional aid for 10 minutes of daily spiritual reading between the Feast of St. Andrew, November 30th. Ah, man, it's already December 2nd. It's okay. And the traditional date of Epiphany, January 6th, Waiting for Christ contains such a keen vision of the soul redeemed and transformed by grace that it will invite you to return to its pages throughout the year. So maybe you're watching this next year and you'll have it in time. But if you haven't found something for Advent yet or need a supplement, I'm just saying this could be one for you. 10 minutes of reading each day. Hey, you could do a kickoff where you have a half an hour or an hour if you're a little bit late. Why not? You could do this in a group or by yourself or as a family. I've never done this, and I don't know that my family would go for this, but wouldn't it be lovely if your family could each do this, and then when you get together for Christmas, little conversation starter, right? Something that you can talk about. So it's called Waiting for Christ, Meditations for Advent and Christmas by St. John Henry Newman, edited by Christopher O. Blum. It must be fairly new because it says Augustine Institute, Greenwood Village, Colorado, and they just moved there recently. Let's see. The copyright is actually 2018. Interesting. Ooh. So instead of having chapters, it has an introduction, and then it has the date and the topic and the page number. And although there's some big gaps there, it is a sequential book. Get ye a bookmark. A paper clip will do that you can move through the book. Yeah, you don't want to have to be using these. Even a sticky note would do, a sticky note tab. We know I probably have hundreds and yet can never find them. I actually think they're on the other side of the desk. I'm on an L-shaped desk. I think they're on the other side. Ah, I can see right away there are footnotes. They are very tiny, so if you want them, just know that in advance. You may need to put your readers on. I already have mine on. That's why you get these weird lights when I move. These are blue light reading glasses. The page numbers appear to be in the bottom center the whole way. What does that tell us again, friends? Right. The book is meant to be read sequentially, which makes sense because it's by date for Advent, 10 minutes a day. Are there any other special features? Nope. Starts right there. You can see the date very clearly. Must be a feast day of St. Andrew. And then here's our topic in italics again. Lovely, but difficult for some people to read. I can see scripture quotations. You can see several of them here are in parentheses. So you'll be able to find those very quickly. So what was in the big footnotes in the beginning? St. John Henry Newman, G.K. Chesterton, and R.W. Church. An article on the Oxford movement. Oh, so that's to let you get to know St. John Henry Newman before you start. Those are those footnotes. Are there any other footnotes in the book then? There may not be. That's what I'm looking for quickly, because I know somebody's going to ask that and say, it's too hard. There's footnotes all through it. I am honestly not seeing any other footnotes. That's just in the introduction, which is just like one page front and back and one more page. Yep, no other footnotes. There's no other notes in the back. Nothing, glossary, nothing. It just ends. You can't read the ending first. That's quite silly in a devotional book, but I know it's tempting for some of us, isn't it? So let's look. Yeah, one page, front and back. And honestly, this is all that's on the second page. So there's not much here. The introduction is very short to let you know a little bit about Newman. Let's look at it another day since I showed you the first day. Yes, December 9th, St. Juan Diego, Divine Calls. So even St. Juan's in there. He's a fairly recently canonized saint, and it's one page, front and back. Here is another page, front, and a little bit on the back. 10 minutes. If you're a quick reader, I'm thinking I would probably do this in 5 minutes, but spend the whole 10. Give yourself some time. There are generous spaces throughout the book if you want to take notes, but you may want to have some sort of prayer or devotional journal to go through, especially if you're going to do it later as a family. If you're going to do it later as a family, I would actually make my notes in the book. Now, if you're someone who doesn't like writing in the book, or maybe you only have one copy for the book, a journal may be the way to go. But if each person in your family or in your study group has their own copy of the book, and yet you don't want to write in it, and you don't want a journal to have to worry about keeping track of a book and a journal, the way to do it is add some white sticky notes. And I'm going to say white sticky notes because if you use colored ones, sometimes if they get wet, the color will bleed into your book. And if you're like me, you're catching moments during this season when you can. In fact, I'm catching this moment right now. I am literally between doing laundry all morning and dishes, and then I had spiritual direction to close out my retreat and did another load of laundry. I was going to walk the dog, but he chose not to wake up today. Don't worry, there's nothing wrong. He's just extra sleepy. In fact, he since woke up and went back to sleep again. So he doesn't need a walk right now. I might let him play in the backyard while I'm what? Making cookies. We have 400 cookies I have promised to make for our parish bake sale this weekend. So I'm grabbing moments in between. I don't want to get that wet. I don't want to get it messy. White sticky notes are the way to go. You can put them in the book, put them in and out whenever you need, and yet you can have your notes in there for when you're reviewing your book with a friend. Let's read that introduction. Story time, friends. A man of discernment, if thou find, wait on him at daybreak, and wear out his doorstep with thy frequent visiting. This sage advice from Ronald Knox's translation of Sirach 6:36 captures the purpose of this book, which is to give its readers the chance to start each day of Advent in the company of a man of great discernment, so that Christmas will find us more and more like him, who at this time became a little child for our sake, more simple-minded, more humble, more holy, more affectionate, more resigned, more happy, more full of God. And that is that little prayer that is on the back. There's that prayer if you wanted that prayer. If you wanted just that prayer, here it is. It's on the back of the book. And it is done by, footnote, St. John Henry Newman, The Mystery of Godliness. And this is below at page 103. So it must be from a G.K. Chesterton book, The Style of Newman, the Speaker. George Saintsbury, A History of English Prose Rhythm by London, printed in London by Macmillan in 1922. So, by G.K. Chesterton, The Style of Newman. It looks like it's an article in the book The Speaker, but possibly in a collection. I'm going to have to look that reference up for you. That's a very confusing footnote. Let's go on. The most celebrated of modern converts, St. John Henry Newman, was for many years a clergyman in the Church of England before being received into the Catholic Church in 1845. During his Anglican years, he won accolades for his preaching, which was as inspiring and challenging as it was captivating. Chesterton once credited Newman's style with a magic that is like a sort of musical accompaniment. And he was afterwards lauded as one of the great masters of quietly exquisite prose that the world has ever seen. As to his sermons' quality as reflections on the gospel, Richard Church, one-time dean of St. Paul's, penned this finest praise. They made men think of things which the preacher spoke of, and not of the sermon or the preacher. Newman's preaching realized St. Augustine's prescription that eloquence ought to be wisdom's unobtrusive companion, so that in hearing the good preacher, you could almost imagine wisdom stepping out from her own house, that is, from the breast of the wise man, followed by the eloquence as her inseparable, even if uninvited lady in waiting. Lovely. It goes on just for one more paragraph, and I'll let you read that when you get your copy of your book, because I'm sure you're going to. Let's go back to December 9th, St. Juan Diego. Somebody in my family has this as their patron saint, so it's really calling to me, and I think this is the one. Again, I won't read you the whole meditation, but a snippet to get you used to the style. I'm on page 45. Again, it's December 9th for St. Juan Diego, Divine Calls. It would be well if we understood this great truth, that Christ is, as it were, walking among us, and by his hand or eye or voice bidding us follow him. We do not understand that his call is a thing which takes place now. We think it took place in the apostles' days, but we do not believe in it. We do not look out for it in our own case. We have not eyes to see the Lord. Now, what I mean is this, that they who are living religiously have from time to time truths they did not know before, or have no need to consider, brought before them forcibly, truths which involve duties, which are in fact precepts, and claim obedience. In this and such like ways, Christ calls us now. There is nothing miraculous or extraordinary in his dealings with us. He works through our natural faculties and circumstances of life. Still, what happens to us in providence is in all essential respects what his voice was to those whom he addressed when on earth. Whether he commands by visible presence, or by a voice, or by our consciences, matters not, so long as we feel it to be a command. If it is a command, it may be obeyed or disobeyed. It may be accepted, as Samuel or St. Paul accepted it, or put aside after the manner of the young man who had great possessions. These divine calls are now commonly, from the nature of the sudden and as indefinite and obscure in their consequences as in former times. The accidents and events of life are, as is obvious, one special way in which the calls I speak of come to us. And they, as we all know, are in their very nature, and as the word accident implies, sudden and unexpected. A man is going on as usual. He comes home one day and finds a letter or a message or a person whereby a sudden trial comes on him, which, if met religiously, will be the means of advancing him to a higher state of religious excellence, which at present he as little comprehends as the unspeakable words heard by St. Paul in Paradise. By a trial, we commonly mean something which, if encountered well, will confirm a man in his present way. But I am speaking of something more than this, of what will not only confirm him, but raise him into a high state of knowledge and holiness. We all want to grow in the spiritual life, friends. And how do we do this? With sound teachings and acting upon them. And I think that is the challenge here of St. John Henry Newman. Just this little prayer. I don't know that the book recommends it because we haven't finished the introduction, but I'm going to say each day before you start this meditation, pray this little prayer. May each Christmas as it comes find us more and more like him, who at this time became a little child for our sake, more simple-minded, more humble, more holy, more affectionate, more resigned, more happy, more full of God. God, please help me in these readings to understand what you're trying to say to me, how you work in my life, and what you are calling me to this season. In Jesus' name, amen.